Part 25. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 242. Lily didn't expect that he would bring the rice out to eat with her. In the plot and in memory, Tang An never ate outside the Tang family. In the past, he had cooked meals for Lily when and never joined her. When eating, the most he could do was watch her finish eating, then put away the dishes and then leave. In Lily Wen's view, this was already a sign that he liked her very much, but when she didn't like Tang An, this kind of love was unavoidable. It would sometimes make her feel like a burden and a burden. If it weren't for the fact that Tang An was always by her side when she was helpless, helping her and becoming a useless person for her, I'm afraid she wouldn't have such deep guilt. After the two of them finished eating, Lily felt relaxed all over, and her previously dull head relaxed a bit because she was full. Tang An handed her a cup of warm water and the medicine he had prepared. "I'll come over again in the evening, and put the medicine I need in the small compartment in the living room." He pointed to the storage box on the small table next to the sofa, and whispered, "If you feel uncomfortable, please asking for a 2-day leave from school." He leaned half sideways, with almost his upper body pressed against Lily's body. Behind him was the sofa. Lily was squeezed into a corner by him, but she couldn't avoid his breath everywhere. When she heard this she nodded hurriedly, originally wanting to push him away, but seeing the coldness between his brows and eyes, as if he had no other intention, it was hard to reach out again. "Open your mouth." He stretched out his hand to hold Lily's hand holding the water glass, and motioned her to put the medicine into her mouth. Then he fed her the water. His movements were very intimate, but his expression was a little indifferent, as if there was no ambiguity. Breath. Lily's hand was wrapped in his palm, and she swallowed the medicine involuntarily. He didn't stop feeding the water, and she choked without noticing. Cough. As soon as Lily coughed, Tang An had already taken out the handkerchief from his arms and gently wiped it on her chest. His movements were unhurried and his expression was reserved and somewhat low-key luxurious. "Be careful." His hands moved between his chest, making the hairs on Lily's back stand up. When she was about to hide in a hurry, Tang An had already sat down beside her, stretched out his hand to hug her upper body into his arms, lowered his eyelids, and scolded. "Don't move." There was a hint of solemnity in his tone, making people listen to his words involuntarily. He wiped the water drops from Lily's clothes. But he didn't mean to let her go. "You have nothing to do this afternoon, can you go for a walk?" The two of them leaned close together, like an intimate couple. Lily thought of the original owner's love for Lu Yuankai, and she shouldn't be so close to Tang An before she figured out what to do. "The thought just came to my mind." Lily's body just moved, and the arms originally wrapped around her waist became extremely tight in an instant. Tang An, who originally had a relaxed expression, was like an angry lion for a moment. He narrowed his eyes and showed a somewhat serious look on his face. "Are you feeling uncomfortable?" "It's not." Tang An. "I want to go out for a walk in the afternoon." The more Lily struggled, the tighter she was held. Almost her whole body was pressed against Tang An's body. She sat on Tang An's lap, and her hands were forced to release. On his chest. The gesture was so close that she felt a little uneasy. "I've been lying at home for a few days, and I kind of want to go out for a walk. I happen to be free in the afternoon. I can accompany you." Tang An nodded, as if he didn't notice Lily's resistance, and buried his head in her neck. "Where do you want to go?" His breath blew out when he spoke. At Lily's neck, she couldn't help but want to struggle, but Tang An hugged her tightly, his lips gently moving around her delicate skin. This sight surprised Lily, and she hurriedly wanted to push him. Although the two of them were called a couple in the past, in fact, no one knew better than both of them about their real relationship. Tang An had never done anything like this to Lily Wen. He had always seemed to be in love. Ji Huli was too calm and rational to look like a man immersed in love. He and Lily Wen rarely even held hands, let alone cuddled and kissed. Go wherever you want, just walk around. Lily put her hand on Tang An's chest and wanted to tilt her head back, but Tang An turned over and pressed Lily underneath him. His body blocked most of the light, leaving the two of them with no light. He created a narrow space, and gently placed his lips on Lily's eyebrows and the tip of her nose, and finally touched her lips tentatively. Just as Lily was about to turn her face away, he reached out and held her head. As if something had been determined, before Lily could speak, Tang An's lips were already pressed against Lily's lips. This situation did not happen in the plot. Lily Wen's body was petite and slender. Now she was restrained by Tang An, and she had no power to fight back. Tang An, who used to be reserved and gentle, seemed to be a different person, so powerful and domineering. It's a little scary. At that moment, Lily felt as if she was going to be eaten alive by him. His hands tentatively moved around her waist several times, as if he was going to tear her clothes apart at the next moment, but he restrained himself in the end and just tightened his grip. He hugged her tightly and never let go, but just like that, Lily broke into a cold sweat. In the afternoon, Tang An made a phone call, and the two of them walked downstairs. This is a high-end residential area. The developer has turned this area into a large park apart from a few scattered villas. The only houses that can be lived in there are only 2 or 3 small high-rise buildings. The greening is very good, and the distance between the buildings is also far. It takes almost 7 or 8 minutes to walk to see a building. It is very quiet. Of course, the price is also high. Lily and Tang An are there while walking in the park. The September sunshine shone on her body, and the handsome young man next to her held her hand and stared at her without blinking, with a faint smile on his lips. This weird scene gave Lily a feeling as if she and Tang An were already an old couple. The few days of rest passed quickly. From the beginning when Lily fell ill, Tang An came to see her once a day, and later he came every morning and evening. This 3-day break happened to be the weekend. Lily Wen was originally hurt because Lu Yuankai ignored her at first, and she became so sick that she couldn't get better after taking medicine. She originally hoped to use this method. She asked him to come and see her, but Lu Yuankai didn't come. Instead, she became seriously ill, and it took her more than half a year to recover. Of course Lily couldn't be as stupid as the original owner this time. She didn't think too much, took the medicine on time, and Tang An took good care of her. After only a few days, what was originally a small cold became almost better. Before Lily got up on Monday morning, Tang An had already brought the breakfast prepared at home. Because this body was too weak, it was very slow for Lily to find a sense of energy after coming for a few days. As the force value increased, logically speaking, it should be easier to practice martial arts by yourself as you gain height, but this time you didn't practice well. Lily planned to go back to the space to ask Li Yangzi after completing this mission. She worked hard for half the night last night, and now she was so tired that she couldn't open her eyelids, until someone seemed to be lying down next to her, and something warm and wet moved between her neck and chest, so heavy that she couldn't breathe. Only then did Lily open her eyes, and at a glance she saw Tang An's upper body pressed against hers, his face buried in her chest, a few buttons of his pajamas unbuttoned, and his chest was moist, and his breath was blowing there, making people feel I couldn't help but feel soft all over. "What are you doing?" Lily's face felt a little hot and she pushed his head. Tang An, who was not wearing glasses, looked a little less gentle and more sharp and gloomy. There was a stern look in the corners of his eyes and eyebrows. Does not look like a young man who has just turned 23, but looks like a general who has experienced the power of the world. His eyes are a little red and bloodshot, and he looks fierce and formidable. "It's time to get up." He stood up as if nothing had happened. He now unbuttoned the collar of his straight shirt, and his expression returned to its previous calmness. He took the glasses he had thrown aside and put them on, returning to his previous appearance. Gentle and polite. As if she had done nothing just now, Lily subconsciously reached out to grab her clothes, but felt that she was making a fuss. She pursed her lips and her ears couldn't help but feel hot. Tang An he had already taken the breakfast aside. Go wash your face and brush your teeth quickly, I brought breakfast. Under his sharp gaze like a hunter, Lily grabbed her clothes and ran towards the bathroom in embarrassment. Tang An gave her a strange feeling, especially what happened just now. When Lily opened her eyes and faced him, she almost thought she was going to be raped. He swallowed it into his belly. Although the fierce light in his eyes only flashed, she saw it clearly. Regardless, it looks like the room will be locked in the future. When she came out after washing, Tang An had already found the underwear and dress for her to wear today. The weather was not cold in September, so a dress and a knitted sweater would be both beautiful and refreshing. The thing he brought turned out to be health porridge. The familiar taste made Lily stunned, and she couldn't help but feel a little confused. The movements in her hands slowly stopped, and Junmi was about to take a comb to comb her hair. The young man paused, and a slight smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. What's wrong? Can't you finish eating? The portion of porridge he brought was a little too much, and it was true that Lily couldn't eat it. Besides, she had experienced too many missions. Even if she was a hard-hearted person, she couldn't help but feel emotional at this moment. The delicious porridge suddenly no longer attracted her. Lily shook her head, and Tang An squatted down in front of her, opened his mouth and said, "Feed me." Lily was stunned. The increasingly familiar feeling made her instinctively feel uneasy. When Tang An saw that she didn't move, he held her hand and slowly finished the porridge with a spoonful, swallowing the porridge in his mouth. But a pair of eyes were staring straight at her, as if what he was eating was not porridge, but her. Lily's whole body tensed up. After watching him finish the porridge, he put the bowl back on the bedside table without saying anything. And then breathed a sigh of relief inexplicably. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 243. I'll take you to school. Tang An saw Lily's somewhat resistive behavior, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, but his eyelids drooped, blocking the determination in his eyes. He clenched his fists and then released them. Come and take Lily's hand. Although Tang An had not really joined the officialdom at this time, his father was very famous in the country, so he naturally became somewhat famous. This university was a famous school arranged by Tang An for Wen Lily, and there were many of them. For some powerful second generation, if he appears, he will inevitably be recognized, because. Then his car stopped outside the school. After the car door opened, only Lily unscrewed the bag by herself. I'll have someone pick you up at noon and let's have dinner together. Tang An was sitting in the car, holding a few documents in his hand, blocking his lower abdomen. When he turned to look at Lily, he said this not as a question but as a confirmation. This person looked gentle on the outside, but in fact he had a very strong personality, leaving no room for her to refuse. He hesitated for a moment, then sighed and agreed. The school classroom was already full of people. It was not a surprising thing for Lily to take several days off in a row. When she entered the classroom door, many people noticed her. One person did not notice her at first. The girl sitting next to her specially moved her things over and whispered to her. She whispered, "Ziahe, your Prince Charming is also here today. He even came to the classroom to look for you this morning." Lily initially thought that the Prince Charming the girl was talking about was Tang En, but it took a while to realize that the Prince Charming she was talking about was Lu Yuankai. In this school, Lu Yuankai is not the one with the best background, his family background is only well off. But he is handsome and outgoing, plus. After entering school, he joined several clubs. He had good academic performance and was very kind-hearted. Many people had been helped by him. Therefore, He was also quite famous in this department. He was nicknamed Prince Charming by some girls. There are many people who like him. Lily Wen's past fondness for him is in the class. It's not a secret. If Lily Wen in the past heard Lu Yuankai coming to find her, she must have been elated, but now that she had changed someone, when she heard Lily Wen's name again, she did not show a happy and shy expression as the girl had imagined. Instead, she just nodded lightly. Respond lightly. There was a sound. What's wrong, Ziahe? Are you unhappy? I heard that you were angry a few days ago. Is it because Senior Lu didn't visit you? That's because Senior Chiu was injured and Senior sent her to the hospital. The girl explained. Lily Zhao recalled that this girl was named Han Qinkai from the memory of the original owner. He should be considered a person with whom the original owner has quite a friendship. In fact, although Lily Wen is introverted and cowardly, she actually has a bad temper. She is even a little weird, and many people sometimes can't stand her personality. She doesn't get along very well with her either. Lily Wen herself has been sensitive since she lost her parents when she was young, so it has been more than a month since she entered the school. But she couldn't even name many people in the school because she was afraid of getting along with strangers and suffering hardship during military training, so she asked Tang En to help her avoid military training. She has no common experience, and now the people in the class are even more ostracizing her. No, don't think too much. I'm just wondering if the senior and I are not worthy at all. Lily felt a dull pain in her heart when she heard the name Senior Chiu. This so-called senior sister Chiu is the person Lu Yuankai likes. Lu Yuankai joined the basketball team, and the assistant of the basketball team. There is a girl named Wan Kaiokui, who was classmates with Lu Yuankai from high school to college. Lu Yuankai has liked her for many years. Lily Wen didn't know about this before, and she didn't discover it accidentally until later in the plot. Now when heard Wan Kyokui's name, her body reacted instinctively. Lily's brows wrinkled involuntarily. Don't think too much. Senior Lu used to come to the classroom to look for you. He's here again today. He probably likes you. Han Qinkai laughed twice and said in a certain tone, you can just feel free to ask Senior to follow you if you have a relationship, he will definitely not refuse. When Lily heard this, she just smiled and said nothing. Lu Yuankai obviously didn't like her. When Wenbei he deliberately ruined her body for him, he chose to help the injured Wan Kaiokui instead of visiting Wenbei who had been waiting for him to appear. This is enough to prove that Lu Yuankai's heart is full of love. Middle. Who is more important? Later in the plot, after when Lily married Lu Yuankai, although he never yelled at Lily Wen, in fact, in addition to his natural good-tempered character, underneath that gentleness, he might also be polite and distant. A manifestation that Lily Wen couldn't see, but Lily couldn't understand it. It's just that the original owner didn't feel any strange when facing Tang En at this moment. On the contrary, after hearing Lu Yuankai's name, his emotions surged. This made Lily a little unsure about the direction of this mission, so she decided to see it first. See it later. The teacher in the morning class was talking about the history of modern literature. Lily felt drowsy after listening to it. When the bell rang and everyone was packing their things, Lily instinctively felt as if someone was looking at her. She turned her head to look. Seeing Lu Yuankai's handsome and gentle face appearing outside the classroom, this moment, was looking at her and smiling. Han Qinkai smiled ambiguously at Lily, bumped her waist with his elbow, and said quickly, your Prince Charming is here. Ziahe. Some anxious people in the classroom had already run away, leaving some girls who wanted to see Lu Yuankai, the famous Prince Charming, and some who were still slow, and now they all turned to stare at Lily. Lu Yuankai entered the classroom, smiled gently at Lily, and stretched out his hand. He helped her put away the unpacked books on the table. Sorry, Okra was injured in the basketball club 2 days ago, so I sent her to the hospital and didn't have time to see you. Lu Yuankai is fair-skinned and gentle. At first glance, he looks like a replica of Tang En, but upon closer inspection, they are slightly different. He is truly gentle and introverted. Sometimes when his eyes fall on Lily, he looks a bit panicked. Also wears glasses on his face, but his eyes under the lenses look like he is holding his mouth. He had a general smile and clear eyes, unlike Tang En. There seemed to be too much in those eyes, making people afraid to look directly. He was also tall, but about half a head shorter than Tang En. He also looked lean, but his legs were not as slender and straight as Tang En. Without realizing what she was thinking, Lily compared the two men. 1 pass. Lu Yuankai's temperament is clean and gentle, lacking Tang En's temperament. The natural nobility and the momentum of a person in a superior position are also a bit more approachable. If the original owner is afraid of Tang En's momentum, it is not impossible that he will like Lu Yuankai. Senior, you don't need to apologize to me. There is nothing wrong between us. If you feel that my previous behavior has caused you trouble, then I apologize. Lily stood up and bowed slightly to Lu Yuankai and nodded. She behaved like this. Lu Yuankai was a little overwhelmed, with a bit of panic on his face. He looked uncomfortable again, rubbed his hands, and said awkwardly, "You are not wrong. I want to apologize to you. The 2 concert tickets you bought before were because a friend of mine and my girlfriend had a fight, so for the 2 of them to get along, I will give you the ticket you gave me." Gave it to them. At first, Lily thought he was apologizing for not coming to see her when she was sick, but now it sounded like he was apologizing for other things, and she couldn't help but laugh and cry. There is indeed such a thing in the plot. Lily when asked Tang En for help to get 2 tickets for a band that Lu Yuankai had liked for a long time. This band was a famous band abroad. It was the first time he returned to China to perform. She only held 1 concert in the imperial capital, and it could be said that a ticket was worth $1,000. She was originally. He wanted to make Lu Yuankai happy and create the situation that the 2 were dating. As a result, Lu Yuankai, in order to let one of his dormitory classmates coax back his girlfriend with whom he had already quarreled, gave away the tickets that Lily Wen had asked Tang En for. Sent away. This incident made Wen Lily a little heartbroken at first, but when Lu Yuankai did not agree to date her, she could only swallow the bitterness in her heart. Although she felt a little uncomfortable at the time, she acted generously and said it was okay. But Lily is different from the original owner. It's Lu Yuankai's job to be a good person. Lily hasn't figured out how to carry out this mission yet, so she decided not to please Lu Yuankai for the time being. Anyway, with Lu Yuankai's character as a good old man, even if someone stabbed him, he would comfort them by saying, "It doesn't matter, she just said something that hurt him." If she wants to be with him again according to the original owner's wish, it will not be difficult to coax him back. "But senior, I asked a friend for that ticket, and I haven't paid for it yet." Lily thought of this, with a somewhat anxious and innocent look on her face. "I originally thought you liked it, but I wanted to say first just buy it and then work and gradually pay it back. But now, senior, you don't want to go. Look, those 2 tickets were given away again, and the price of these tickets." The girl's voice gradually became quieter, a look of anxiety appeared on her face, and tears quickly accumulated in her almond-shaped eyes. The role of advanced acting skills came into play at this time. Lu Yuankai originally felt that this matter was a little bit, he felt guilty. He couldn't bear to be embarrassed by his classmates and didn't think too much about it. Just thinking that Lily Wen had given him 2 tickets. At that time, in order to comfort his classmates and let him get back together with his girlfriend, he gave the tickets away. He originally thought that he would not pursue it after he apologized to Lily. After all, she is also a kind and introverted good girl, but Lu Yuankai did not expect that Lily has not yet. He gave the ticket money to others, so he felt a little guilty. In a panic, He hurriedly comforted Lily and said, "Don't cry. I'll give you the money. It's none of your business. Just ask your friends how much it costs. Don't worry." To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendation, monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 244. Lu Yuenkai's voice was gentle and indifferent, and it really had the power to soothe people and calm them down. Lily lowered her head deliberately, pretending to be embarrassed, sniffed, and pretended to cry, with a trace of light showing at the corner of her mouth. The smile came, but was blocked by her wiping tears. "I couldn't buy that ticket originally. I asked a friend to get a VIP seat for me. I heard that such a seat seems to be sold for more than 5,000 yuan. One piece. One ticket is more than 5,000, and two tickets are more than 10,000. Lu Yuenkai's face, which had been gentle just now, suddenly became tense after hearing these words. His eyes widened. Apparently, he didn't expect that the kindness he gave out casually was worth so much. He was just from an ordinary, well-off family. His parents can give him a maximum of 1,500 yuan a month for living expenses, and more than 10,000 yuan is almost his living expenses for a year. Even though he usually saves, he couldn't help but help people in trouble when he saw them in the past, so he has no savings at all. And now there was a look of embarrassment in his eyes. "I originally thought that after reading it with my senior, I could slowly work part-time and repay the debt, but..." Lily pretended not to know the embarrassment on Lu Yuenkai's face, and whispered again that she wanted to work part-time to repay the debt, and as expected, she saw Lu Yuenkai showed a bit of guilt. She stopped in time, and Lu Yuenkai said a little guiltily, "Don't worry, I gave you this ticket. Of course it's my responsibility to pay it back. You shouldn't have to work for it. I'll find a way to get it together after I go back. Once we get it together, the money will be given to you later and you can pay it back to others." Lu Yuenkai is a kind and good man, but he has no bottom line in helping others. In the plot, Lily Wen did not know how many times she suffered from his father-like character because of being with him. It's just because she loves Lu Yuenkai so much that she keeps it secret. Every time Lu Yuenkai wants to trouble her, it indirectly means he wants to trouble Tang En. She doesn't know how many benefits she got from Tang En for Lu Yuenkai. He sent her away until the two got married and Tang En stopped contacting Lily Wen. After the line was broken, Lu Yuenkai's parents no longer looked down on Lily Wen, the daughter-in-law who had been so close to her. Lily doesn't have the original owner's infatuation with Lu Yuenkai. At this time, Lu Yuenkai was forced to agree to pay back the money, and she felt a little relieved. Before she could laugh out loud, a tall and thin young man came in at the door of the classroom. Lily felt that the weird atmosphere in the classroom had not changed yet. Turning her head to look, a white hand reached over and twisted the school bag she had packed away. At the same time, he grabbed her hand and clasped it tightly with his fingers. Tang En said softly, "Let's go." He didn't know when he came over. Although his voice was as gentle as ever when he spoke, Lily could hear a trace of tension and sullenness in his words, and she felt inexplicably embarrassed. It was as if a cheating wife had been caught in front of her husband in front of the adulterer, feeling extremely guilty. Dun's lips pursed into a straight line. There was a bit of displeasure in his eyes, and he kept his gaze on her without moving away, as if she was his full focus. He stretched out his hand to straighten Lily's ponytail that she had tied up in the morning. It had become slightly messy after half a day, but the girl's fine hair quality made the mess not look out of place. After a long while, Tang En was sharp, his eyes gradually softened. He held Lily into his arms as if possessing it, lowered his head and kissed the top of her head. He said warmly, What are you talking about, so happy? Although his expression was neither hurry nor slow, the intimate gesture and the act of completely encircling Lily in his arms, making her smell of his own, both showed that Lily was his person. Lily's head was pounding. Before she could figure out what to do with this mission, Tang An had already made a decision for her quickly. She just said with a bitter look on her face, and glanced at Lu Yuankai subconsciously, but she didn't notice that her little action made Tang An laugh a little dangerously, and a serious look flashed in his eyes. After putting Lily's bag on his body, he held Lily's waist with one hand, hooked her chin with the other, and gently touched her forehead. After a while, he forced himself to move his face away, say goodbye to him. Lily was stunned. She really didn't have to choose now, because from the corner of her eye, she saw Lu Yuankai's face showing a bit of embarrassment and discomfort. He took several steps back, as if he was afraid that Tang An would misunderstand him. As if she was stunned, she laughed twice in her heart. When she saw Tang An's charming and handsome face with a smile, the two of them were so close because of the intimate action just now. She almost saw a layer of evil in Tang An's eyes, and instinctively just follow his words, "Goodbye. Goodbye, Zia." Lu Yuankai reluctantly nodded to Lily. He was actually relieved. Lily had a crush on him a few days ago. No matter how dull he was, he felt it, and he didn't feel it in his heart. He has never been worried that he has a girl's heart. In fact, what he really likes is Wan Kyokui, his classmate for several years, but he just sees when Lily's delicate and timid look and is too embarrassed to refuse. After all, his classmates, and he really couldn't bear to embarrass a girl, so he dragged it on day by day. Unexpectedly, the misunderstanding became deeper and deeper, and Lily Wen seemed to like him more. Just when he felt a little embarrassed, unexpectedly, Lily Shaiwen's boyfriend unexpectedly appeared. Even though Lu Yuankai didn't actually like Lily, he still couldn't help but feel embarrassed that he had been too passionate in the past. He took a few steps back as if he was electrocuted, and moved farther away from Lily before looking at Tang En. He glanced at Lily and whispered, "Then we are going to the orphanage this Sunday. Do you want to go again?" He looked like he was asking for a date with Lily, which made Tang En's eyes look sharp, and he couldn't help but he narrowed his eyes and said, "You want to date my girlfriend?" Lu Yuankai had also secretly inquired about this person's information. In the past, he had asked his own people to make appointments with him for Wen Bailey, but this was the first time they actually met him. After all, Lu Yuankai is not a big shot and is not worthy of his attention at all. No, I just want to say, if Zia he doesn't have time to go, can you lend me the car? We had promised Lu Hongming from the orphanage to drive them out to play. Lu Yuankai coughed twice, his face turned red. If it's inconvenient for you, forget it. He looked at a loss, which made Lily frown. In the past, Lu Yuankai didn't like the original owner. It wasn't until Wenbei he later discovered that he liked Wan Kyokui, his classmate for many years. But even if he didn't like the original owner, he would easily do things that made the original owner misunderstood in some matters, which ultimately harmed him. The life of the original owner. Lily didn't have a good impression of Lu Yuankai, a person with a saintly personality. In addition, Lily Wen didn't have a car. For more than 2 months after entering college, she made appointments with Lu Yuankai to go to the orphanage many times, but in fact, every time it was Tang En who borrowed the car. Wenbei he didn't think of anything else in order to please Lu Yuankai. This made the Tang family have a very bad impression of her. After all, she was raised by the Tang family and provided for her to study and eat. She regenerates with kindness. It was okay for her to dislike Tang En in the end, but the Tang family's kindness to her was unquestionable. She should have been grateful instead of taking it for granted. Because when Beihi's parents passed away early when she was young, she lived in the Tang family and had a low self-esteem. At the same time, she was also a little resistant to the people in the Tang family. She was defensive against anyone who came to teach her things. She always felt that the Tang family had some plot against her, so she was unwilling to seriously learn what they taught her. For the rest of her life, she was destined to be Tang An's daughter-in-law, and she felt very dissatisfied but unwilling to do so. Dare to speak more and only show your attitude in some small things. In the eyes of others, her awkwardness is a manifestation of her weird and gloomy temper. While they don't like her, they naturally don't pay much attention to teaching her. She is still lacking in all aspects such as humaneness and sophistication. They don't know the consequences of doing so. She was unhappy with the Tang family, so after she married Lu Yuankai, she was bullied by Lu Yuankai's mother to the point of being speechless, but no one stood up for her at all. Lily would naturally not do such a stupid thing now. Lu Yuankai liked Wan Kaiokui. He should go to the orphanage with Wan Kaiokui and find a way to use the car. He couldn't shout that he didn't love Lily when. On the one hand, he was always taking advantage of her, even if he didn't actually use her intentionally and the starting point was not for himself. After all, Lu Yuankai is a tolerant figure like a holy father, which does not mean that others should be the same as him. I'm sorry, senior. I may not be able to borrow your car this Sunday. In fact, the car is not mine. I borrowed it from someone else. After borrowing it last time, they told me that they can't borrow it anymore. Senior, please find another way. Let's go. Lily remembered the last time the original owner borrowed a car from Tang En, but when he drove a few children from the orphanage into the car, the originally brand new and clean car was messed up. When the car was returned, the Tang family came. The driver who picked up the car was actually not very happy, but the original owner thought that the Tang family looked down on him, and he felt a little resentful and inferior at the same time. He even felt that he was giving up on himself and wanted to embarrass the Tang family. Although Lily felt that Tang An's attitude was weird at the moment, the Tang family was kind to the original owner, and she really couldn't be as cynical as the original owner. In the plot, Tang An's life was ruined because of Lily Wen, and now these little things should be regarded as atonement for the original owner. When Lu Yuankai heard Lily's words, he couldn't help showing a bit of disappointment on his face. Is that so? To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations, monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 245. Lu Yuankai's family didn't have much money. Although he was not extremely poor after providing for him to study, it was very difficult to buy him another car and make it affordable for him. Therefore, he always took the bus to go in and out. It was just that those children who grew up in the orphanage wanted to try the feeling of driving, and he really couldn't bear to refuse those innocent little faces, so even though he knew that Lily Wen might have other thoughts when she agreed to go to the orphanage with him, Lu Yuankai still endured it. Is there anything else? Tang An raised his eyebrows. Lu Yuankai himself was also tall and thin, but standing next to Tang En, he seemed shorter. In fact, the height difference between the two of them was not much, but because Tang En looked very thin after putting on the shirt, so he gave the impression that he was much taller than his actual height. At this moment, he looked calm and confident, which made Lu Yuankai involuntarily shrink his shoulders and shake his head. Tang En pulled Lily and said, "I borrowed it." Then he confidently left with the others. When Lily turned around to look back, she saw Lu Yuankai's face that couldn't hide his disappointment. She knew in her heart that she would have to go on this mission again. It may be a little difficult to establish a relationship with Lu Yuankai. Although this Holy Father has a broad mind, it is not easy to get him to accept you when you think you already have a boyfriend. People with a personality like his sometimes decide on one thing. It is very difficult to make him change. The two returned to the parked car. Tang An opened the door first and let Lily get in. He wiped his face, his eyes showing some bloodshot eyes. After parking for about a few seconds, he went around to the other side, opened the door and got in. He got in after the car. I saw Lily looking dazed. Unable to hold back, he pulled her into his arms, his voice a little hoarse. "What is it about him that attracts you so much that you still want to look at him so many times even though you don't like him?" There was a bit of sarcasm and hurt in his tone, and the look in his eyes was so gloomy that people couldn't understand. He took off his glasses and threw them aside, with a dangerous look on his face, but his fingers gently caressed Lily's face. As if caressing something precious and fragile, the complex smile at the corner of the mouth revealed a hint of bitterness. "It took a long time to wait until now. Even if it's your own fault, Lily, don't let me go. You are mine. You were mine before and you will be in the future, no matter what you become, no matter what thoughts you have in mind." Tang An's body came closer, giving Lily a very heavy sense of oppression when his face came close. There was a look in his eyes that made people confused. It was as if it had been dyed with thick ink, deep and dark. But it is bottomless, with an edge that makes people afraid to look directly. Lily suddenly felt a sense of fear of being restrained by someone. This feeling seemed to have happened once in her vague memory. She was tightly restrained by someone. Even her thought-free soul seemed to be tied up, making her. His face couldn't help but stiffen, and he lowered his head. I felt a little horrified in my heart. Tang An in the plot does not have such feelings. He has always been cold and indifferent towards Lily when, with indulgence and concern, he didn't care who she wanted to be with, as if he was an outsider watching with a cold eye, sighing for the plot and characters in the movie. The gentleness that occasionally made Lily Wen feel a little appropriate, in fact he didn't have much emotion in it. I don't know why he changed at this moment. Lily instinctively wanted to call Li Yangzi to ask about this situation, but she didn't respond to her feelings, as if she had just cut off contact with Li Yangzi. This kind of discomfort, the feeling of safety, made Lily tense up. She felt Tang An's hand tightly strangling her waist. The force was astonishingly strong, as if he was about to break her waist. His eyes were red, and his expression was ferocious, but he seemed to be afraid. When Lily saw herself like this, it only took a moment for him to press Lily's face to his chest. After saying that Lily belonged to him, Tang An seemed to have changed his previous caring but distant attitude towards Lily Wen. He bought a new apartment in the community and moved his things there. He was just a neighbor with Lily, but he actually asked Lily to move her things with him. When Lily was a little numb and wanted to protest, he stared at Lily with a meaningful look, which made Lily feel a little creepy. At the same time, he was helpless against his strength for a while. If the strength and status of the two were equal, she would naturally not have to be controlled by others. But when she just entered the mission and found that she was inferior to others, even if she felt that Tang An was dangerous, she instinctively wanted to stay away from him. But there is more than enough ambition but not enough power. This time, Lu Yuankai was getting further and further away from her. It wasn't until more than half a month later that the news came from the department that Lu Yuankai of the basketball team was with Wan Kaiokui, the assistant of the basketball team. Lily was completely dead and wanted to fulfill the original owner's wish. Lu Yuankai really fell in love with her. What kind of style does Miss Lily like? Mr. Tang likes this one very much. Just when Lily was having a headache about this mission, what made her even more troubled was that Tang An decided the date of their engagement. This kind of step-by-step the tight feeling made her a little panicked, and at the same time, she instinctively felt a little more afraid of Tang An. The eldest son of the Tang family was engaged, so the wedding couldn't be too small. It had to be prepared at least half a year in advance. At this time, the stylist showed her several design drawings and pointed out a set of clothes that Tang An had specified. He carefully stared at Lily, who was frowning and smiling, but her smile was a little forced. Lily was originally impatient to deal with this designer, but lately Tang An has been keeping a close eye on her. If she didn't stay with this designer to choose clothes, she might have to stay with Tang An. Compared to Tang An made her feel dangerous and uneasy, and she would rather be with this designer. After a casual glance, Lily's eyes suddenly froze. The designer was pointing at a set of red cheongsam. The style may be outdated for modern people, but for those who really like it, but it is still a classic. The red color is painted on the artwork. Even if what she sees is not the real thing, Lily can still feel the exquisiteness and beauty of this cheongsam. But this wasn't what surprised her. It made her feel the hairs on her back stand up. It was this cheongsam that gave her a feeling that was so familiar that it made her feel chills. Her expression changed instantly. In her memory, she should have worn such a cheongsam, and it shouldn't have been worn by the original owners after doing so many missions, but it should have been worn by her. Just because she had too many tasks to do, she couldn't remember where she had crossed it for a while. Lily's face changed slightly and she stood up, her hands trembling a little. Tang En always gave her a strange feeling. Now the designer pointed out that the cheongsam was an accident or a coincidence, but it should not be someone's intention. Lily comforted herself in her heart, her eyelids couldn't help twitching, and she shook her head without thinking, I don't want this, I want another choice. A look of embarrassment appeared on the designer's face. Compared to her opinion, Tang En's opinion was obviously much more important than hers, so she was just stunned for a moment, and then showed a smile. She did not agree to Lily's words. I didn't deny it, I just flipped through the design album again. I'm going to find Tang En. Seeing the look on her face, Lily couldn't guess what she was thinking. She stood up suffocatingly and said, let's discuss this later, okay, she said. Lily has been hiding from Tang En so much recently. Except for the short time they spend together at night, during the day, class time has become the time when Lily feels most relaxed. Tang En is sometimes busy after class, and she sometimes does other things. Finds something to do. It was very easy to find Tang En. Whether it was because he had greeted the people around him or because Lily was getting engaged to him, she saw him in Tang En's office. The office of Nyata is clean and simple, yet exudes low-key luxury. A complete set of office desks and furniture are made of fine rosewood, with an antique charm. In this era when rosewood is sold by the pound, such a set of furniture that can be called antique can be imagined to be priceless. Tang En was sitting behind his desk, his head lowered as if he were stroking something in his hands. His eyelids were lowered to block the thoughts in his eyes. The transparent floor-to-ceiling windows behind him reflected the sunlight on him, covering his whole body in the light. At the same time, because he lowered his head, his hair fell down and cast a shadow on his face, making it difficult to see the emotions on his face. The office was so quiet that you could almost hear the drop of a pin. Tang En looked a little lonely at the moment, with a kind of aloofness that refused to let others live thousands of miles away. As soon as Lily opened the office door, she felt a little bit in her heart. I regretted it. She couldn't bear to wake up Tang En, who was alone at the moment, and shatter the tranquility of this room. A feeling of annoyance welled up in her heart, making her subconsciously want to close the door again before exiting. Come in. Tang En raised his head, a warm smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. This smile was like the sunshine breaking through the ice, dispersing the haze on his face. Come and try. He stood up and rushed. Lily waved. Lily hesitated and entered the office. Tang En was holding a cheongsam in his hand. It was as bright as fire. It was exactly the one she saw on the design drawing just now. It had a real object. After comparison, the familiar feeling made Lily feel stiffer and stiffer. She turned around and wanted to leave, but it was too late. After the door was closed, Tang En took out some remote control and pressed it. She heard a beep sound and the door was locked tightly. She pulled it several times but it still didn't open. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 246. Twain, this is too fast. I am not prepared at all. Lily felt a little headache. She tried to reason with Tang En, but she saw that he had no intention of telling her more and just smiled at her. Lily came over. He found the cheongsam in his hand, and the smile on his face was a little strange. I have been waiting for this day, but I have been waiting for many years. He said something meaningful, and Lily quickly shook her head. I know, but give me some more time. She had just entered the mission. Even though Tang En had been waiting for Lily for more than 10 years in the past, she had only been here for a few days. It would have been fine if the target of the mission was Tang En, but, before she even understood the mission target, Tang En forced her to make a choice. Originally, she didn't have much of a choice, but the key was that the feeling Tang En gave her made Lily feel a little uneasy, so she inevitably felt a little resistant to this mission. Seeing the fearful and uneasy look on her face, Tang En just smiled and said nothing. He easily pulled Lily into his arms and stretched out his hand to unzip the zipper on her back. Today, Lily was wearing a dress with a zipper on the back. At first it looked like her whole body was wrapped in the dress. Unexpectedly, she realized her mistake at this moment. As soon as the dress was opened, Tang En's hands were just gently on her shoulders. With a push, the skirt fell straight to the ground. Lily subconsciously crossed her arms to squat on the ground, but Tang En put the cheongsam on her body himself. He didn't mean to take advantage of her. Instead, he let her put it on, and then his fingers nimbly began to clasp the knot on her chest. Come. He buttons it from bottom to top. This is a retro cheongsam. There were a lot of buttons on it. There was a smile on Tang En's lips, and he looked like he was in a good mood. Until finally his hand fell on the buttons around her neck. He was getting closer and closer, and Lily could only see herself in his eyes. With a somewhat panicked expression, she finally fell into his arms. His lips moved from her neck, causing a slight tingling and itching, and her long hair was flexibly woven through Tang En's fingers. Tightly wrapped around his fingertips, Lily felt more and more that something was wrong. This situation was too much. If it was Li Yangzi in the past, there must be a way to get her away, but this time he did not move. He had promised himself that when he completed Ye Changjin's mission, he promised himself that he would let his soul leave his body for every intimate mission in the future. Thinking of Ye Changjin, Lily suddenly felt as if she had been touched by lightning. She almost screamed. She remembered. During that mission, Marong died. Ye Jinjin took control of the power of the marshal's mansion, and he replaced Ye Kailiang as the marshal. At the celebration banquet that day, he had someone bring him such a fiery red cheongsam. Lily didn't take such a small thing into her heart at all. After all, it was compared to Marong's death and the completion of the mission. She wouldn't have thought about it that much, if she hadn't seen the cheongsam suddenly look familiar today. If she hadn't thought that Li Yangzi had promised to help her after that time, she wouldn't have thought of it. For some reason, Lily suddenly remembered that when she left the world of Ye Changjin's mission, she was already over 50 years old. Ye Changjin, who held great power, had said an inexplicable word in her ear, and she didn't know where it came from. The ability imprisoned her soul so that she could not return to the space. A cold feeling shot directly from the solace of Lily's feet, making her whole body stiff. When the passionate kiss fell on the corner of her cheek and lips, Lily only felt a chill in her heart. Impossible. Her lips were trembling, and Tang En's kisses were densely printed on her face. Seeing her pitiful look like a frightened quail, he finally laughed unscrupulously. Impossible? What's impossible, my girl, my Zaya? He is still my wife. His voice was gentle, like a whisper in his mouth, passionate and lingering, but at this moment he heard Lily in her heart. It made her legs tremble even more. Li Yangzi, Li Yangzi. Lily already instinctively felt that something was wrong with the mission. She might not be able to complete it this time. Tang En's expression was terrifyingly dangerous. She could not complete the mission this time. She would rather start over. She was willing to do a lot of tasks for Li Yangzi for free to make up for her failure. She only asked Li Yangzi to give her a chance. But Li Yangzi, who almost always appeared when she called him, did not answer her this time. Although he would disappear sometimes in the past, since he promised her, he would definitely not regret it. Lily bit her lower lip. Even though there was no response from the starry sky at this moment, she still kept calling that person's name in her heart. The pair of strong arms wrapped around her waist, so strong that they seemed to break her, as if they wanted to pull her into his arms. Tang An's voice was low and there was a hint of laughter. He came from behind. He hugged her, and his fingers began to slowly but painfully untie the buckle around her waist that he had just fastened with his own hands. I have been waiting for so long and searching for so many years, but I was finally caught. When he said it later, his voice became gloomy. Even if Lily couldn't see his face at the moment, she could still imagine him. There was a bit of ruthlessness in the gentleness on that face, just like before, even after so many missions, but now when I think of Ye Changjin's face, in addition to fear, still only fear. What are you talking about? I don't understand. Lily smiled reluctantly, her voice was dry, and there was no reply from Li Yangzi in the starry sky. At this moment, she could only stabilize Tang An first. After all, it was possible that all this was just her own fright. She is just herself. In fact, there is no such thing as Ye Changjin, and the Cheongsam is just a coincidence. After all, she has experienced so many missions, it is not surprising that there are any coincidences in the world. Lily tried her best to comfort herself and swallowed her saliva, but her throat was still unbearably dry. She wanted to show a smile, but she couldn't smile at all. The mirror beside her, where she was adjusting her appearance, reflected her pale and frightened face. Tang En, who was hugging her behind him, lowered his head and looked at her affectionately, smiling, but the smile at the corner of his mouth was a bit bloodthirsty. Like here? It's okay, you have to remember, your man is me. Tang En laughed softly, his chest pressed tightly against Lily's back, leaving no gap. Although it is no longer, it doesn't matter what you looked like back then, as long as it's you. One day, I can still catch you, naughty girl. After he finished speaking, he winked at Lily and reached out to touch the top of her head. He started to unbutton his shirt without thinking about himself. He grabbed Lily with one hand to prevent her from escaping, and placed his other hand on his shirt that had been slowly unbuttoned. This slow motion was the most irritating. I'm getting a little impatient waiting, you know? I always look at some girls named Lily, guarding them every time, treating them as the secrets that may unlock the treasure. As long as I call open sesame, I think it will. I found you, but I'm already a little tired of it. He smiled, his movements were slow and unhurried, except for the dangerous look flashing in the corner of his eyes. His expression was as gentle and friendly as if he was casually chatting with Lily about a light topic. I'm already tired of it. I have been following people with the same name one after another, but in the end I haven't found the right one. He took a deep breath, and no longer just smiled like before, but laughed heartily. But hard work pays off, no matter how well another person hides you, as long as you are still, I feel like I'm looking for you. You can't leave me again. Tang An was like a nervous person. He was laughing just now, but suddenly his handsome face was clouded again. He stretched out his legs to hook up a chair and pressed Lily up, stretching his legs against her. The force on her waist and abdomen would not be so strong that it would be unbearable for her, but it would not be so weak that Lily could turn over and sit up. The cheongsam that he had put on just now was lifted up by him again, just in time to restrain her hands, revealing her white and tender skin, crystal clear and beautiful. This controlled posture and the gradually decreasing number of clothes on her body made Lily feel a little flustered. No longer able to hold his breath, he tried desperately to struggle, but could not escape his suppression. Tang En, let's talk carefully first. I'm still in your office now. Lily didn't get a response from Li Yangzi. Under the pressure of being disheveled, especially the unreliable guess in her heart was following at this time. Tang En's increasingly grim expression gradually became clearer. She had done missions so many times, and from the panic at the beginning to the calmness and ease later, she had never encountered any kind of situation, but even if it was again, even though there was so much pressure, it would not make her feel so powerless for the first time. Not good. Tang En blinked, and the shirt he was wearing was quickly thrown aside. The standard clothes made him look slimmer, but when he took off his clothes, he looked more muscular. Now, his body had beautiful muscle lines, and his breath exuded the beauty of strength. Like a dormant wild leopard, it is ready to attack, waiting for the prey under its sharp claws to make a final and helpless counterattack. If I don't get you now, do I have to wait for Lu Yuankai to come over? Tang En seemed to have told a joke. His usually unpredictable eyes were slightly bent, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Still, in fact, you were waiting. Is it him? It's a pity that he can't come for a while. I can feel it. The stronger I am now, the more independent I am, even if he is. Before Tang En finished speaking, Lily suddenly felt that her body was light and her soul was light. The swing started. There were some accidents. Li Yangzi's cold voice rang out. Although his tone was calm, Lily could still hear a trace of fatigue hidden in it. There were some accidents on this mission, which scared you. Unfinished, to be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 247. Li Yangzi's voice was a little cold, but at this moment Lily looked at Ye Changjin, who had a cold look on his side. The dangerous look on his body could no longer be concealed. Under his feet were the glasses that were crushed by him and were pressed on the chair by him. When Lily's body was almost naked, and her body was covered with marks. Lily was still in shock. Even though Li Yangzi didn't have a gentle tone at this time and she couldn't even see his face, it made Lily relax quickly. Her original soul state and heart were not beating at all, but now Lily could almost hear her heart pounding. What to do with this mission? She had a panic look on her face. The sense of oppression that Tang En brought to her was so deep that Lily felt chills on her back when she thought of his gentle and elegant face, which was actually cold and scary. They all stand up. The surroundings were deathly quiet. If it weren't for the fact that she was still in the state of her soul at this moment, Lily would have thought that Li Yangzi had never appeared from the beginning to the end. Her lips trembled twice, but she didn't hear a reply for a long time, but her eyes saw Tang En's cold face, smiling and putting clothes on Lily Wen's body again. After 2 pauses, he couldn't bear to speak. Li Yangzi's vague sigh seemed to be heard from all around. This time it's because of some accidents in my relationship, so I can help you, but in the future here, you may have to rely on yourself, even if you encounter such a situation again. In the future, will you decide to add a little bit of what I give you to your spirit every time you complete a mission? Originally, she told him that there was a possibility that the mission could not be completed this time, but Li Yangzi suddenly asked him this question. Lily was a little confused and didn't understand what he meant, but she understood that he wanted to help her. At this moment, as long as Li Yangzi promised to get her out of such a situation that made her feel a little uneasy, she would agree to anything. Yes, she responded hurriedly. Li Yangzi was silent for a long time, and then said quietly, "Then, that's it?" As soon as he finished speaking, Lily felt the world spinning and the earth quickly falling into unconsciousness. At the same time, Tang En's handsome and elegant face also showed a bit of struggle and distortion. He stared at the disheveled Lily in front of him and narrowed his eyes slightly. After a long time, he opened his eyes again and regained his calm demeanor. When Lily woke up, She happened to see Tang An reaching out to button her clothes with a calm expression. She no longer felt the madness that had made her hair stand on end, but only a calm and rational demeanor that made her feel at ease. "Tang An," she called out tentatively, and Tang An nodded to her with a cold expression. "I scared you just now, but I won't do it anymore." He straightened Bailey's hair, and his expression was natural and intimate. Restraint and suppression. "Are you hurt anywhere?" The tone of his voice seemed to be completely different when he spoke. It's as if a person who was almost losing his mind before has become so rational that people think he can't make mistakes. Lily was a little uneasy about this weird feeling, but when she contacted Li Yangzi in the starry sky again, she didn't get a response from him, but it must have been something he did, so Tang An didn't scare her as much now. Lily hesitated for a moment, still cautiously pushed the chair and took a small step back. "When I was further away from him, I felt relieved." Tang An should be well aware of her actions. But he didn't show any dissatisfaction, he just buttoned up his clothes again. He seemed to be a little unfamiliar with how to button his shirt, because he instinctively reached out to reach his waist, and his movement seemed to be that of wearing ancient clothes. People were looking for knots around their waists, which made Lily want to laugh. The corners of her mouth twitched, and she subconsciously shrank back into the chair. She saw that Tang An's ears were a little red, and he lowered his head as if he was starting to button up again. Unbuttoning his shirt, the movements were a little awkward at first, but gradually he became more proficient, and his expression soon returned to its previous calmness. "Can the wedding be held as you wish?" He picked up the clothes Lily had just taken off from the floor and folded them, then returned to his desk with a stern expression. "If you don't like Chong Sam, that's fine too. Let it go for now." If he was still as strong as before, Lily might have been even more uneasy about letting herself wear a Chong Sam, but now he seemed to be a different person, and she trusted Li Yangzi too much, and instinctively she felt that he would not harm her, so she was also convinced that the Tang An in front of her was a different person, and it was no longer the result she had guessed. She couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, although she thought that the Tang An before was not the same person. She felt melancholy for a moment knowing whether it was the person she imagined, but she soon calmed down. No need to change, just keep it. If it was what she suspected, if there was a connection between Tang An and Ye Changjin that she couldn't explain, then if he had really been looking for her for a while and put aside his in addition to being nervous and scared, if he is a little obsessed with what he wants to wear, Lily has a bit of an ostrich mentality at the moment, hoping that he can rely on what clothes he wears to make him feel satisfied and no longer have to be like before. She didn't know if such thoughts were useful, but at the moment this was the only way to comfort herself. After that day, Tang An seemed to be a different person. He was still calm and rational in front of others, but he was also the same behind others. While Lily breathed a sigh of relief, she thought of the person who had been looking for her for a long time. It's not that she has no feelings, it's just that she doesn't want to think too much at the moment, so that she will be hindered by the people in the mission, just like in the sea, and finally end up with an uncomfortable end for herself. After Tang An no longer let her look tense before, since she was about to marry him, it was impossible for Lu Yuankai to fall in love with her again, so Lily naturally had no choice but to teach him a lesson to vent her anger for the original owner. He had taken advantage of Lily when in the past, but Lily secretly asked him to pay back double the amount. In the past, he liked to borrow other people's cars to do good deeds, but now that Lily Wen is gone, his beloved Wan Kyokui is just an ordinary person. Naturally, unable to withstand his kind heart, Lu Yuankai had no choice but to rent a car to satisfy the children's wishes. It was okay for the first time or two, but as the cost of renting a car increased, and he still owed Lily 2 tickets, life became very tight. Occasionally when he went out on a date with Wan Kyokui, Lu Yuankai couldn't even find $1 on him, and sometimes it was inevitable that Wan Kyokui would foot the bill. After a long time, I am afraid that no girl can bear it, and the same is true for Wan Kyokui. She is just an ordinary girl, and she also hopes that she will be held in the palm of her boyfriend's hand instead of holding her boyfriend in her palm. It was inevitable that conflicts would arise between the two, especially since Lu Yuankai also wanted to treat her as he treated Wen Lily before, and asked her to go to orphanages and nursing homes to volunteer together. Wang Kaiwakui's resentment for a long time finally broke out. Ziahe, did you hear that Senior Lu and Senior Chiu, who are juniors, had an argument? They had an argument during the first class this morning. Senior Chiu is such a gentle person, but I didn't expect that she could be so fierce at times. Lily is about to get married now, and she has not come to attend most of the elective courses. The Tang family wants her to learn too many things, and it is inevitable that she will neglect them sometimes. Now that he had just arrived at the school, Han Qinkai, who had a relatively good relationship with the original owner, squeezed over and said, Senior Lu used to think that he was such a good person. He would actually do such a thing. When Lily heard Lu Yuankai's name, she became a little interested and couldn't help but ask. Han Qinkai then chirped and told the story about Lu Yuankai, the civilian prince of the basketball club, which was spread throughout the department today. Senior sister Wang is going to be pregnant soon. When she was 4 years old, she contacted a big company and asked her to do an internship during the holidays. I heard that Senior Lu secretly signed up for the two of them to teach in remote mountainous areas. To help the poor students in mountainous areas, it was not easy for Senior Wang to get such an internship. The opportunity. But because Senior Lu made such a fuss, it was gone. It was not easy to get into that company, so they quarreled for a few days. I heard that Senior Lu donated the money that Senior Wang's family gave her for her internship next semester to a patient who needed surgery. A patient, Senior Sister Wang couldn't help but fight with him. Her eyes were bleeding, and the ambulance even came in the morning. When she heard these words, Lily could barely hold back her laughter. There was no doubt that Lu Yuankai was a good person, but he was so nice that he became a bad person who didn't know how to do things according to his ability. Lily Wen liked him back then and was willing to do it for him. He sacrificed everything, but others may not be able to do what the original owner did. This time, Lu Yuankai had already messed up everything without Lily taking action. It's impossible to have your cake and eat it too. After Lu Yuankai chose to do good deeds, he naturally stopped thinking about love. He wanted to have both, so naturally he had to end up like this. Later, something happened to Lu Yuankai's eyes, which affected his vision to a certain extent. Liu's mother came to the school to make trouble once, but Wang Kaiokui was not a vegetarian. She was not like Wen Lily, who had suffered and been wronged without the support of her parents. She didn't dare to say that she was just bored in her heart. Her parents also rushed to the school and almost had a fight with Liu's mother. After calling the police and receiving warnings and demerits from the school, the two of them calmed down. Lu Yuankai originally thought that it would be a pleasant thing for him to follow his lover to teach children in impoverished mountainous areas. He did not care about money, otherwise he would not have felt that Lily Wen, who was obviously not from a simple background, was a burden, but I didn't expect that Okra didn't like such a pleasant thing as helping others. When the dispute got to this point, the two naturally had no choice but to break up. When love was hit by reality, Lu Yuankai quickly became depressed. He couldn't help but start to compare Lily Wen, who had a crush on him before, with Wang Kaiokui. At that time, he didn't understand the feeling of being loved. He only wanted to share everything with the person you like, but never thought that the person you like may not accept what he likes. If he had known this earlier, it would have been better to be with Lily Wen. At least she was gentle and would think about herself. On the day Lu Yuankai was punished, many people in the school heard Liu's mother yelling and scolding him, asking him to find a docile and obedient daughter-in-law who would regard him as his god, and not to find a shrew like Wang Kaiokui, which caused a lot of anger in the school. People laugh. Marrying a submissive, obedient, and man-oriented wife suddenly became a joke among the students of this famous university in the imperial capital. Half a year later, the Tang family from a well-known family married a wife for their son. The wedding was extravagant and everyone knew that Lily Wen, who was inconspicuous in the school, was actually not a simple boyfriend. Lu Yuankai, on the other hand, looked at the heroine in the news that was called the wedding of the century, and felt vaguely that he had lost something. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 248. This time, the starry sky was unusually quiet. There was only a familiar voice saying in Lily's ear, "Congratulations." The voice was like a mechanical sound from a tablet. She couldn't distinguish between male and female. Lily thought of the voice she heard for the first time after she was in a car accident. That's it? After comparing with Li Yangzi, she could clearly tell that the voice in front of her did not belong to Li Yangzi. She was stunned when she thought of Li Yangzi's inexplicable words when he agreed to help her. Although she didn't know what happened, Li Yangzi, since he is not here now, it should prove that the favor he did for him should be very troublesome. Lily pursed her lips, but before she could speak, her information appeared in the starry sky. Gender, female, variable. Name, Lily. Age, 21. Intelligence, 67, out of 100. Appearance, 69, out of 100. Physical strength, 63, 100 full points. Force, 34, out of 100 points. Spirit, 31, out of 100 points. Reputation, 21, out of 100 points. Skills, 9 Yang Manual, 9 Yin Manual, Heaven and Earth Gate Tao Te Ching, Southern Gu Technique. Specialties, Intermediate Cooking Skills, Advanced Acting Skills, 5 Elements, and Bagua Skills. Charisma, 38, out of 100. Collection, Corpse King's Love, Saint's Blessing, Angel's Heart, Dragon King's Promise, Fox's Charm. Enter the mission. A calm tone sounded, and Lily couldn't help but ask, where did Li Yangzi go? She always felt that Li Yangzi's disappearance this time should be related to her, but as soon as she finished speaking, the flat voice did not agree with her. On the contrary, after she finished speaking, her vision went dark and she fainted unconsciously. "My son!" a sharp female voice cried out. Lily's head felt like pins and needles. She slowly opened her eyes. She remembered that she left the space and asked about Li Yangzi's whereabouts but got no response. Couldn't help but laugh twice, and after putting all the thoughts in his heart away, he began to look at the place where he was. She was wearing plain white at the moment, and her head was feeling dizzy. There seemed to be something tied up on the head, and as far as the eye could see, it was almost completely white. She knelt on the ground, with a mourning hall in front of her. The dark coffin was placed on top of it, looking a bit eerie and terrifying. Intermittent crying came from the side, and the body was still tearing up paper money and throwing it into the brazier instinctively. The flame became bigger and bigger. "Ziahe, you've been here all day, why don't you come in and take a rest?" a calm male voice rang. Lily turned her head subconsciously and saw that she was wearing a blue cloth jacket and grey coarse trousers. The young man with only a pair of straw sandals on his feet was staring at her with some concern on his face. "You have always been in poor health, and now it is cold. You will be asked to stay in the morning hall for a long time. Please go back to the house to rest for a while." Lily's legs were indeed numb from her knees at this moment. When she heard what the young man in front of her said, she couldn't help but nodded. He stretched out his hand and easily hugged Lily into his arms. After meeting the crazy Tang An in the previous mission, Lily was instinctively nervous about contact with others, and her body suddenly stiffened. But as if the young man didn't feel anything at all, he hugged her and walked into the house. The light in the room is quite bright. But it could be seen that her family's situation was not very good, so the man put her on the bed, touched her cheek and said to have a good rest, then turned and walked outside. Lily closed her eyes and pretended to sleep, but in fact she began to absorb the plot. This time she entered a martial arts world of grudges and hatred. This body's original surname was Lu and its nickname was Lily. She married Song Wulang from the next village at the age of 14. After the marriage, the couple treated each other with respect and affection. Song Wulang's mother, Li, gave birth to 5 sons. Except for the second son who died not long after he was born, the other 3 sons all joined the army, but in the end they all died on the battlefield. In the end, only Song Wulang was left, who looked like an eyeball. The original owner had been married to Song Wulang for 2 years but was not pregnant. First of all, he felt pity for her frail body and young age, and she might not be able to withstand sexual intercourse. Song Wulang rarely touched her before she was 15. It was also because in this way, after 2 years of marriage, there has been no news about her pregnancy, which makes her mother-in-law, Mrs. Li, a little anxious and dissatisfied. The relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law seems to be harmonious, but in fact it is a bit tense. At the same time, there was a treacherous prime minister in the court named Qin Gong. He was not very young, but he framed Zhongliang and committed many murders. 7 years ago, he stood on the side of the current emperor and shot the former emperor to death with an arrow, thus helping the current emperor. After ascending the throne, he had the merit of following the dragon, and was named Dingguo Gong by the current emperor. This man held great power. Once the emperor came to power, he killed many ministers in the court who were loyal to the late emperor, and the story unfolds from there. Among the group of ministers who were killed, there was a minister named Yang Xianlin. This man had a daughter in his family, but because she was born with a weak body, an enlightened monk once gave her instructions, thinking that she would not survive the age of 18. Only by keeping her away from the world and avoiding these 18 calamities can she have a peaceful life. Yang Xianlin loved his daughter so much that he simply sent Yang Xiaoxiu to a secluded sect in the mountains. Over the past 10 years, he had learned a lot of skills. After hearing that his family was framed by traitors and his parents were executed, he became anxious and panicked. He packed his bags and went down the mountain, preparing to seek revenge from Qin Gong. Although she has studied martial arts for many years, Qin Gong is surrounded by many talents and masters. Not only did she fail to get rid of Qin Gong during the assassination, she almost died under Qin Gong's sword. When she was seriously injured and was being chased, Song Wulang rescued him. Got her. Although Song Wulang is just a common man in the mountains, he has been taught by experts since he was a child. In fact, he has practiced martial arts. Coupled with his natural supernatural power, practicing martial arts in this way is even more effective. He saw a weak female being chased by a group of officers and soldiers. When she was killed, Song Wulang took action to save her, but she got into trouble from then on. Yang Xiaoxiu failed to assassinate Qin Gong and was seriously injured. The most important thing is that when Qin Gong's men killed her, there was venom on the sword. She was highly poisoned, so she had to suck out the venom and bandage it. Maybe there is still time to survive. However, as a man, Song Wulang was inconvenient to do such a thing for her. After hesitation, Liu Bei stepped forward and sucked the poison away for Yang Xiaoxiu. In the end, although her life was not in danger, she was somewhat affected by the poison. The child, who was already 2 months pregnant, was aborted. After the incident happened, the Li family felt like they were struck by lightning. She hated Liu Bei for not being able to save the Song family's flesh and blood, and she felt pity for her unborn grandson, but she couldn't blame Yang Xiaoxiu. After all, her son had saved him, and now he was suffering from the pain. After being seriously injured and unconscious, Mrs. Li felt pity for her. After Yang Xiaoxia woke up and listened to her explanation of the whole story, she felt extremely sympathetic to Yang Xiaoxia. When Yang Xiaoxia heard that her life was saved by Liu Beihe and she lost a child as a result, she secretly decided to repay her. As for the way to repay her, Yang Xiaoxia decided to marry Song Wulang. She was originally a young lady from an official family, but now she is committed to being a common wife. She is beautiful and has amazing martial arts skills. She actually feels that it is a bit unfair to be a common wife with Liu Beihe, but Liu Beihe has helped her. She naturally endured the grievance. The most important thing is that Song Wulang saved her. Although Song Wulang was not handsome, he had a charm that made her heart beat. What's more, as the saying goes, there is no way to repay the kindness of saving a life. You can only repay her with kindness. She admired Song Wulang's heroic spirit and liked his chivalrous spirit. After she married him, the couple traveled around the world, killed corrupt officials and traitors, and restored peace to the world. Wouldn't it be wonderful for the couple to be as carefree and happy as gods? The most important thing is that she can give birth to a child for the Song family for Lily Lu, which can be regarded as repaying Lily Lu for saving her life and making up for the child she lost. This is killing two birds with one stone. Yang Xiaoxia originally thought that she was being loyal and righteous by doing this. She regarded Song Wulang as her future husband, so she didn't care about him. She told him her hatred and hoped that he would avenge her blood. She made it clear that once the hatred is over, and she married him. Song Wulang was a little melancholy at first. He was always a man of righteousness. It didn't matter to him whether Yang Xiaoxia married him or not, but this man was the most filial. As soon as his mother Li heard that Yang Xiaoxia was willing to marry into Song dynasty, after hesitating, he secretly persuaded his son to agree to the matter. First of all, Lily Lu suffered physical injuries during her miscarriage. The doctor once said that it might be difficult for her to have children in her life. Even if she takes good care of herself, she will not be able to get pregnant again until 2 or 3 years later. The Song family was already poor, and the first 4 sons were all dead. Ms. Li was deeply afraid that she would not be able to wait until the day her grandson was born, so she hoped that Song Wulang would marry Yang Xiaoxia, not for anyone else, but for his own sake. The Song family should also have a son to inherit the incense. Song Wulang hesitated and agreed. They didn't tell Liu Beihe about it at first, until Song Wulang was about to go to the Qin family with Yang Xiaoxia to assassinate Qin Gong. Liu Beihe, who had been bedridden for a long time, felt something was wrong, so he asked Li told her bluntly and told Lily Lu that there were 3 ways to be unfilial, the most important being not having an heir, and told her not to blame Song Wulang, but to be more open-minded. It would be fine if it was another woman, but Lily Lu never thought that the one who wanted to steal her husband was Yang Xiaoxia. She might not be able to have children in the future. Who caused all this? One is her silently beloved husband, and the other is the woman she desperately saved, for which she even paid the price of a child. Now these 2 people have left her to be together, and they still want her to accept them with full understanding of justice. Liu Beihe was naturally unwilling. When she heard this, she spurted out a mouthful of blood. She had been poisoned by Yang Xiaoxia, and now she was so angry that her body collapsed quickly. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 249. It would be fine if it was another woman, but Lily Lu never thought that the one who wanted to steal her husband was Yang Xiaoxia. She might not be able to have children in the future. Who caused all this? One is her silently beloved husband, and the other is the woman she desperately saved, for which she even paid the price of a child. Now these 2 people have left her to be together, and they still want her to accept them with full understanding of justice. Liu Beihe was naturally unwilling. When she heard this, she spurted out a mouthful of blood. She had been poisoned by Yang Xiaoxiu, and now she was so angry that her body collapsed quickly. But she held her breath and wanted to wait for Song Wulang to come back and give her an explanation, but she did not wait for Song Wulang. Instead, she waited for the officers and soldiers sent by the Qin family. From what they said, Song Wulang and Yang Xiaoxiu assassinated Qin. However, they failed and the two fled immediately. Now the Qin family came to the door and were ready to kill her and Li. However, Li had already received the news and escaped. They were planning to find Song Wulang and then bring people to rescue them. After all, Lily Lu was weak after being injured. If she was taken along, neither of them would be able to escape. When Liu Beihe heard this, she no longer had any doubts about what her mother-in-law Li said about the two getting married after Song Wulang helped Yang Xiaoxiu avenge her. She vomited blood and died in great pain. Lily Lu knew nothing about what happened after her death, but she was really unwilling to do so. Yang Xiaoxiu, who robbed her husband and kept shouting about repaying her kindness, was not dead. She had never harmed anyone in her life, and she had never given birth to a child. He had the intention to harm others, but he was the one who died. After Lily received Lily Liu's memories, she couldn't help but sigh silently. She opened her eyes. Because the surrounding houses were covered with earthen walls, the light in the house seemed a little dim. In front of the washed yellow curtains hung curtains of mandarin ducks playing in the water. This was when she had just married into the Song family. The reason why Mrs. Li, the most important reason why I don't like her as a daughter-in-law, is because she just came in and paid a visit to Song Wulang, and the news of Song Dalan's death came. This was one of the reasons why Li disliked her the most, even though Song Dalan died on the battlefield after joining the army. But Li stubbornly believed that it was because Liu Beihe had such a strong character, and because she wanted to bring Song Dalan back and bury him. She and Song Wulang did not consummate their marriage in the first 3 months. Thinking of this, Lily breathed a sigh of relief. In the plot, Song Wulang is a chivalrous man, and in memory he is indeed not bad to Lily Lu. Even though Mr. Li has been making things difficult for Lily Lu recently, raising his nose and eyebrows, he still treats Lily Lu very gently. Although he doesn't like to talk much, he is a filial son, and it is amazing to be able to reach where he is now. But even so, it can't change Song Wulang's character of being loyal but despising his wife. Maybe he thought Liu Beihe was already married to him. So it is only natural that a husband should follow his wife and do good deeds and act chivalrously. This is somewhat similar to Liu Yuankai in the previous mission. I can't lie down for a long time. Song Dalan's funeral is being held these 2 days. It's the time when Mrs. Li is grieving. It's hard enough for a white-haired person to send a black-haired person. Mrs. Li also has some opinions on Lily Lu because of this matter. If she were to catch her hiding in the house while others were burning paper money and crying, she probably wouldn't care whether she was brought in by Song Wulang. Lily pushed herself up. This body is somewhat malnourished, and her wrists are as thin as reed poles. She is not very old, so she is getting thinner and thinner. In addition, since Song Wulang brought it back the night before yesterday, she has been doing a lot of work and eating. There wasn't much, and she didn't sleep much, so Lily felt very dizzy at the moment. Even though she was carrying her own attribute values at this time, her body was not as bad as it looked on the surface, which didn't mean she couldn't feel it. The original owner was physically uncomfortable and in pain. "What are you doing here? Everyone else is staying at De Lang's place, and you are just hiding in the house. I am still young, but you, as a daughter-in-law, are enjoying the blessings. Should you ask me for help in the future? Come to serve you." I just thought that Mrs. Li might find out that she would be criticized. Unexpectedly, before Lily could go out, Mrs. Li came in wiping her tears with her sleeves. When she saw Lily, her face darkened and she snorted coldly. Without even looking at Lily, he turned around and went out with a drooping face. Lily came out again with a calm expression. Now Song Wulang, who was kneeling in front of Song Dalan's coffin, saw her coming out. He frowned and asked softly, "Why are you getting up so quickly?" Although his tone was a little indifferent, it was also a little concerned. "If you feel uncomfortable, you can go into the house and lie down for a while. I am here, and my mother will not." Before Song Wulang finished speaking, Li's the figure appeared in the room. "If you can't even handle this little thing, why marry her? Wulang, my mother gave birth to 5 sons, and now you are the only one left. From now on, you will treat others and have children. Why won't she do it? If you indulge her like this now, it will be not a blessing but a disaster in the future." After Mrs. Li finished speaking, she showed a frustrated look on her face. "I don't care about you anymore, you can figure it out yourself, your miserable big brother. I didn't even enjoy the blessing for a few days before I left a widowed old woman like me." Mrs. Li wiped her tears as she spoke. Song Wulang, who had just let Lily go into the room to rest, felt apologetically when he heard this. He glanced at Lily, obviously not daring to ask Lily to go into the room and lie down for a while. She shook her head at Song Wulang, and Lily didn't take his apology to heart. She knelt down again, but the original owner had been kneeling for a day, and her knees had already been red and swollen. Now when she knelt down, it hurt like needles, so she silently recited the secret of 9 yang magic skills in her heart. Although she couldn't practice it for a while, she didn't know whether it was for psychological reasons to comfort herself or because the transfer method was really effective. She gradually ignored the pain in her knees. After Song Dalan's funeral was completed, Mrs. Li still looked cold and indifferent. She asked Song Wulang to observe Song Dalan's mourning for 3 months to express her feelings. Song Wulang also agreed. Lily wanted it, and she had no objections. It was rare for Li Mrs. She showed a good face. There are many things that the farmer's family has to do every day. Song Wulang has learned martial arts. However, because his first 2 sons died on the battlefield, the Li family does not allow him to go to the military camp. The old house in the family was used to prepare Song Dalan. The funeral had already been sold, so the family built a thatched shed halfway up the mountain away from the village in order to make a living. Every day Song Wulang went into the mountains to hunt, and occasionally hunted some game or collected some precious herbs and went down the mountain. If you trade necessities with others, your life will go smoothly. In addition to Lily doing a lot of farm work with Li every day, she is still practicing her 9 yang manual in her free time. Li Yangzi no longer knows where she is. If Song Wulang asks to consummate the marriage, she may not be able to wait for Li Yangzi. Come help, 3 months will pass quickly, and she will have to find a way to evade it. The original owner's wish was just not to let go of Yang Xiaoxiu. Although he was a little unwilling to let go of Song Wulang, his love was still mixed with hatred. Lily was not prepared to have a child with him. Even if the original owner was not very satisfied with this, she would not let it go. The task cannot be completed. Life in the mountains was boring, but it was perfect for Lily. Mrs. Li didn't like her very much, and she could only talk to her every day. After the death of her eldest son, Mrs. Li was not feeling well. The time is spent either washing and mending at home, or walking in the house. Song Wulang walks through the woods during the day, and Lily's time is very free. More than 3 months passed in a flash, and the weather gradually became colder. Lily also put on clothes made of animal fur. When Song Wulang got into bed after washing his face at night, he looked at her with some discomfort. Very satisfied. Song Wulang was born with extraordinary powers, 1 can be worth 10. In the plot, he helped Yang Xiaoxiu take revenge, and his good martial arts skills came in handy. He was originally at the age of full strength, and he had been married to his wife for almost half a year. So far, he hasn't even touched a finger. Although he is not very greedy for women, Mrs. Li accidentally told him today that there are 3 types of unfilial piety, and the worst is not having children. Although Mr. Lee doesn't like Lily, the Song family, the current situation obviously makes it impossible to find a wife for Song Wulang. She is a woman after all. Regardless of whether she likes her or hates her, Lee thinks it is better to get Lily pregnant first and then add a child to the Song family. Thinking of this, Song Wulang couldn't help but feel a little moved in his heart. Before he went to bed, he reached out and touched Lily's ankle. "It's cold and freezing. Mom asked me to pay more attention to you, don't let you catch the cold." He is not good at words, and now he stuttered a nonsense, and his ears were a little red. "If it is cold at night, I will hold you to sleep. My body is hot." He has been practicing martial arts all year round, and he is still young. At its peak, in winter, it is true that even if you have just taken a cold shower, your body will feel warm. However, Lily was not only uneasy after hearing his words, but the hairs all over her body stood on end. She hurriedly wrapped the animal skin tightly around her body. Several thoughts passed through her mind calmly. She remembered that Song Wulang was the most filial person. In terms of brute strength, she may not be his match, but Lily can still do it if she uses small tricks to make him dislike her. "How could mother say such a thing?" Lily said quietly, and when she turned around, her face showed a look of complaint and grievance. "She doesn't like me, so why would she care about me?" As soon as he finished speaking, Song Wulang's face darkened. He was a filial son. Even if Lily scolded him and hit him, he would not fight back. However, he could not speak ill of his mother Lee, who had raised him up. Easy, now he no longer had the nagging thoughts before, but became a little upset. Just when he was about to speak, the voice of Mr. Lee next door started to cough. Not long after, he slapped the bedboard angrily and said, "Wu Lang, come here. I drink soup, and I feel so cold." To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 250. Several people live under one roof, separated only by a thin wall made of woven bamboo strips, which is not durable at all. Even a cough can be heard clearly from the next door. What Lily just said is obvious. Ms. Lee also heard it. Just now she seemed to be complaining to Song Wulang. Now Ms. Lee was so angry that she was instigating her by scolding her son. Song Wulang went out in silence and did not talk to Lily again. Even if he had another thought, most of his interest was lost when Lily said it. After this incident, Lily was sure that he must have some feelings for her in his heart, but he must also feel a little guilty, and he might not touch her for a while. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but curl her mouth and said silently laughed. From then on, Song Wulang felt more pity and guilt for her alienation, and Lee looked at her more and more unkindly. In this situation, more than half a year passed by, and as soon as Lily's 15th birthday passed, she couldn't stand it anymore and started to urge her son to consummate the marriage. When Song Wulang himself was a little moved, Lily didn't worry about it at all, because counting the time, Yang Xiaoxia was going to go down the mountain to avenge the traitor Qin Gong. About 2 months later, Song Wulang had a strange look on his face when he came back, as if he was very relaxed. Lily thought that everyone outside now had rumors that Qin Gong had killed the entire family of the Yang family and copied the Yang family's affairs. The news was making a lot of noise. She had heard about it even though she lived halfway up the mountain, so it was clear that the matter was indeed serious. She tentatively asked Song Wulang during dinner, "What's going on today, husband? You seem to be a little happy." Before Song Wulang could speak, Ms. Lee said coldly, "I don't smile all the time. Could it be that you are still crying like you, showing it to who?" As soon as Mr. Lee scolded him, the smile on Song Wulang's face faded a bit. He was really in a good mood today, and it was rare that he poured a bowl of home-brewed fruit wine and went out to drink it. But who would have expected that the good atmosphere at this moment would turn out to be, he was scolded by Mr. Lee and disappeared. Lily has been avoiding him very much in the past year. After all, they are married couples. Song Wulang still hopes to have a good life with Lily. He hesitated for a moment and then said to Mrs. Lee, "Mom, Zaya, he didn't mean to make you unhappy with her words. In fact, I saw a volunteer on the street today. Although she looks like a female figure, but she is really capable. She excels in all kinds of martial arts, so she can be called a hero among women." As soon as he said these words, Lily knew in her heart that the hero Song Wulang was referring to was Yang Xiaoxiu. After all, although there are many men practicing martial arts in this era, there are not many women practicing martial arts, especially those who have to learn it decently, and even fewer. This was the time when Yang Xiaoxiu appeared again, so Lily couldn't help but wonder about that. She resisted the pressure of Mr. Lee's reproach and asked again, "Has that husband ever made friends with her? I don't know who this girl's name is." Although Mrs. Lee didn't like this daughter-in-law, she was satisfied with her son being able to make friends with a hero. Therefore, after Lily finished asking, she did not interrupt, but stared at Song Wulang, gesturing for him to speak. "I didn't say hello." Song Wulang smiled at Lily and subconsciously wanted to get closer to her. "This girl is covered in black veil. She is being chased by officers and soldiers. I saw that she was in danger, so I helped her. It was a waste. I just bought a jar of Shaokai knives." There was a bit of pity in his words. The Song family was not a wealthy family. Song Wulang usually hunted some game and went down the mountain to exchange for some oil and salt. The days were also tight, especially in winter. Many animals have hibernated, and sometimes he may not gain much if he goes into the mountains for a day or two, so a jar of burning knives may not seem expensive, but for Song Wulang, it is already a rare treat. Being chased by officers and soldiers. "Husband, if you do this, you will get into trouble." After Lily said this, Mrs. Lee also nodded. Song Wulang's brows wrinkled involuntarily. He really didn't like to see Lily acting as timid as a mouse. It would have been fine if Mrs. Lee had mentioned this, but Lily, as his wife, now acted greedily. The fear of death made him feel a little uncomfortable, but he endured it. Seeing that Lee also looked worried, he reluctantly explained. "Zaya, you and mother don't have to worry. At that time, people in the government may not know that I did it intentionally. Besides, it is too degrading for a group of men to besiege a weak girl's home. Even if I help, it doesn't matter. I'm looking for you. I'm not afraid of trouble." He spoke loudly, and Lily felt bored for no reason. Where is the house of a weak girl? If she can fight with a group of men, I don't think this girl is weak. She would. There was no doubt that Yang Xiaoxiu was in her heart, because a deep sense of resentment welled up in the original owner's heart, making her eyes seem to be bloodshot. Lily was afraid of being discovered by Lee's mother and son, so she hurriedly lowered her head. "That's not what they said. When there is injustice on the road, I will help you with a knife. What's more, this girl must have had some injustice when she got into trouble with the government. If I didn't see it, that would be fine. If I saw it, there would be no reason to stand by and watch." Song Wulang was somewhat agitated. "Unhappy, but forced to endure it. You don't know these things clearly, so don't worry about them. I have a sense of discretion in my heart. Wulang, it's a good thing that you are chivalrous and save people, but now the Song family only has a lineage like yours, so we can't make any more mistakes. If anything big happens, you should protect yourself first." Li Shiren said patiently. She couldn't help but earnestly persuade her. She liked her son's boldness and loyalty very much. When she heard that her son was willing to help others, a smile appeared on her face. However, she thought that if Song Wulang got into trouble with the government, he might be in a lot of trouble, so she hesitated. How about we move in 2 days? There is no game in the mountains now. Although Mrs. Lou and I can't do hard work, we can still earn a few coppers by washing and washing for others. You find a job, earn about $10 a day, save a few years to build a house, then the Song family will be serious. Thinking of the girl who fought and retreated without fear in the crowd of officers and soldiers today, Song Wulang couldn't help but feel a flash of admiration in his heart. Then he looked at Lily and Li who were persuading him in front of him, and he sighed for no reason. Chu's world is what he yearns for. Unfortunately, now he has an old lady at home and he is already married. Maybe the dream of being in the world and the idea of getting ahead are just fantasies. In the future, if he raises a son, he can live an ordinary life like a mediocre person. That is where you will end up in the future. Thinking of this, Song Wulang felt disappointed and a little uncomfortable in his heart, but he really couldn't bear to worry Mr. Li. What's more, now that he was married, he naturally had responsibilities for Lily, so he hesitated for a while and agreed, but his expression was a little, not fast. He felt depressed and did not go back to his room after dinner. Instead, he picked up his machete and went out. He was very skilled in martial arts and had been living in the mountains for another year. Mrs. Li was not afraid that he would be in danger. She knew that her son had ambitions but could not achieve them. She and Lily felt guilty for trapping him, so when Song Wulang left in the middle of the night, Li turned a blind eye and pretended not to notice. It's just that this time Song Wulang went out but didn't come back in the middle of the night. He seemed to hear the noise of people in the mountains. Mrs. Li, who was worried about her son, couldn't sit still anymore. She quickly got up and patted Lily awake. Lu Shi, Wulang has been out for a long time and hasn't come back yet. Let's light up the torch. Why don't we go into the mountains to look for it? It was dark and freezing at the moment. Lily didn't sleep all night because she was practicing martial arts. When Li came in, she discovered that nothing would happen to Song Wulang. He was very skilled in martial arts. He had nowhere to go in this mountain. Been there? Even if she sometimes goes into the mountains to hunt and doesn't come back for 3 to 5 days, she never sees Li being so worried. But even if Lily was thinking this way at this time, she couldn't say it directly, otherwise Li would have to fight for her. Lily hesitated for a while, and was about to comfort Li with a few words, but she had already found her clothes. Signaling Lily to put it on. Mrs. Li had already handed over her clothes, and Lily had no choice but to endure the cold and crawl out of bed. Feeling extremely depressed, the two women lit torches and went out. Although it was late winter, no one in the mountains was sure. There were no wild beasts around, and there was no man around, so Li didn't dare to separate from Lily, so she only carried a woodcutter and went with her. Run toward the fire over there, Chase, a male voice suddenly sounded, which seemed particularly harsh and loud in the middle of the night. Lily was stunned, and she and Li looked at each other. Both of them had expressions on their faces. Anxiety comes. Lily was anxious because she didn't know what was going on at the moment. It was easy to get into trouble if you stayed outside. As the saying goes, mortals suffer when gods fight. The person who listened to the conversation just now was obviously chasing something, either a human or an animal. The former, it is easy to cause trouble for yourself. If the latter is an injured animal, the two of you may be forced into a trapped animal fight, and then they will be unlucky. What Li was thinking about was that her son had been out for the whole night and had not returned. At this moment, someone came up the mountain. She was afraid that something had happened to Song Wulang. She was so frightened that her legs became weak and she could no longer walk pace. Let's go take a look. She was really afraid that someone would come to them. She clearly heard that something was wrong, but Li still wanted to move over there. Lily was about to refuse and persuade Li to hide, when suddenly there was a sound of leaves being moved from far to near. Came, like the sound of rapid footsteps in the grass running this way. Just as Lily was about to speak, a black shadow hit her like lightning. If she hadn't been practicing martial arts recently, although she hadn't practiced it yet, what a superb skill, but her five senses were much sharper. When she saw the black shadow, she originally wanted to hide, but her mind reacted quickly enough, but her body was slower. She only heard a bang sound, and the person was knocked into the air, and there was a soft click in the chest. Lily could almost hear the sound of broken ribs. She felt a little numb at first, and then felt terrible pain when she hit the tree and fell down. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 251. Sorry, a clear female voice rang out, with a hint of panic and uneasiness. She was wearing night clothes and subconsciously looked towards Lily. Lily's face turned pale in pain, her lips were trembling and she couldn't speak. She reached out to press the painful area, and sure enough, there was a dent in the bone. It should have been broken, but she didn't know the specific injury at the moment. Well, as soon as she saw the woman stop, Lily already guessed that this person should be Yang Xiaoxiu. She frowned and gritted her teeth and said, "If you don't run away now, why are you staying here? If someone else catches up with him later, he and Li will definitely not be able to run away after being beaten as Yang Xiaoxiu's accomplices." Lily was about to tell her to leave quickly, but Yang Xiaoxiu was already squatting on the ground. He walked to her side. "I knocked you down, how could I run away? Are you injured anywhere?" Her voice was soft and pleasant. When the already frightened Mrs. Li heard Yang Xiaoxiu's words, she thought he is a person who repays kindness and has a cheerful personality. He can't help but smile a little bit on his face. Over there, at this moment, the messy footsteps were getting closer and closer, and the rain-like arrows were shooting towards the side, getting closer and closer. Lily was injured and couldn't even stand up. Yang Xiaoxiu gritted her teeth and carried her on her back. "I'll take you back first." As soon as she finished speaking, an arrow shot over with a whoosh. Lily, who had been injured and was carried on Yang Xiaoxiu's back, now acted as a ready-made human shield for her. The arrow sank into her back vest and she didn't even say a word. Without saying a word, he cursed Yang Xiaoxiu half to death in his heart, and then passed out. She hadn't noticed anything strange about Lily yet. She had lived in this mountain forest for more than half a year and was familiar with the nearby terrain. Therefore, she led Yang Xiaoxiu through the woods and quickly left behind a group of pursuing officers and soldiers. When Lily woke up again, she was awakened by a soft cry. Her throat hurt as if on fire, and she was covered in cold sweat. In addition to the occasional cries of women, there were burning pyres all around. The small sound of sparks exploding. The moment her eyes opened, even the surrounding scenery was a little blurry. Lily blinked hard, and the surrounding scenery gradually became clear. "My father was harmed by a traitor. The traitor Qin Gong deceived Shengting and killed more than 70 people in my Yang family. This revenge must be avenged. Although I am not good at learning, I can have such a bloody hatred. If I don't kill Qin Gong, I will." It is really hard to swallow the resentment in my heart. Yang Xiaoxiu's soft voice rang out. It seemed that she was telling Ms. Li about her origins at this moment. "When I was chased by officers and soldiers that day, my fifth brother once saved my life. It's a pity that I couldn't kill the Qin thief at that time. There were many eagles and dogs around this man. I am really no match for them. Today, I am saved by my aunt. Xiaoxiu is really grateful." As Yang Xiaoxiu spoke, she bowed down. Song Wulang said with pity, "Miss Yang, there is no need to say more. People in the world should help when they see injustice. It's just a little effort. I don't deserve a big thank you from the girl. But now, the girl how to plan. I was born into a miserable life, and now my parents and relatives are all dead. I am not going to let go of Qin Gong. I just hope to have a residual life left, so that I can take Qin Gong's head to sacrifice my parents' spirits in heaven. Yang Xiaoxiu said this. Reluctantly she couldn't help sobbing softly again. Because the surroundings were quiet, her cries turned into echoes and came back. Cough, cough. When Lily heard this, she couldn't help coughing twice. She just woke up, and her whole body was almost numb. She couldn't even move her fingers. She had no strength for a while because of her sore throat. When she opened her mouth, she was really dizzy, but her throat felt very itchy. As soon as she finished coughing, she felt a little more awake. Yang Xiaoxiu was surrounded by Song Wulang, mother and son, and sat in the middle. She didn't know what they had wrapped around her body. Tied tightly, even though he was placed not far from the fire, he still couldn't feel the slightest warmth all over his body. Although he had known that Song Wulang's moral character had always been chivalrous, after Yang Xiaoxiu appeared in the plot, she would be attracted to her instinctively, but when she really saw the situation, Lily couldn't help but scold Song Wulang in her heart. "Xia, are you awake?" Song Wulang, who just now felt worried for Yang Xiaoxiu because he heard Yang Xiaoxiu's story, quickly came over and reached out to touch Lily's face. "Are you feeling better? I'll introduce you to you. This is Miss Yang. She is a good girl who does not give in to the country. You are saved by her. Her father is the leader of the dynasty." Lily didn't want to hear Song Wulang singing praises to Yang Xiaoxiu. A sadness surged in the body of the original owner. Lily could also feel that the original owner had gone through the plot to heal his love rival, and in the end cost the lives of her mother and son, and instead let her husband marry her. She was in such a mood after the executioner who killed her. She coughed twice in annoyance. The more she became alert, a sharp pain surged up in her body. "I don't want to know who she is, but husband, please don't." She said she was my savior, hit me seriously and injured me, and then used me to block an arrow. How can she be called a savior? In the plot, Liu Bei saved Yang Xiaoxiu. The title of savior sounded like a satire to Lily, not to mention that her injuries were really caused by Yang Xiaoxiu. This person was like a broom star, going wherever he went. It was unfortunate that he had broken his ribs by her, and was carried on her back by her, blocking 2 arrows for her. At this moment, Song Wulang was lucky, but he mentioned her as his savior. If Yang Xiaoxiu was really sincere and wanted to save herself, why didn't she hold herself in her arms and run away instead of carrying her on her back? I don't know if it was because of the severe pain all over her body after the injury, but Lily's temper was not good. In addition, she was somewhat influenced by the original owner, and she couldn't stand Yang Xiaoxiu, and was even a bit hostile, so her tone was very unkind when she spoke. Song Wulang was stunned for a moment, with a bit of embarrassment on his face, and the atmosphere froze instantly. "Sister, it's not my fault. I didn't mean to." Yang Xiaoxiu twisted her clothes with her hands, looking like a little girl who was at a loss. Song Wulang and his son had just gotten used to her heroic appearance, and now they were with her again. Compared to her current fragile and helpless look, Song Wulang couldn't help but sympathize with her even more. Because Lily had just been seriously injured and almost lost his life, Song Wulang couldn't say bad words, but Li didn't. Thinking so much, she already disliked Lily, so she drooped her face and said, "Xiaoxiu saved your life. Not only are you ungrateful, but you are actually sarcastic towards her now. It is better to be a human being with a clear distinction between grudges and grudges. No matter how you treat others, maybe one day God will tell you how you treat others. I'm going to deal with you like this." After Mrs. Li said this, no matter how Lily felt when she heard it, "I was really blind when an ungrateful person like you could marry into the Song family." Lily felt a burst of grief in her body, and she shivered more and more violently. She must have had a high fever at this moment. Fortunately, she was not the original owner. Otherwise, when she heard Li's words, she would have been so angry that she vomited blood and died on the spot like the original owner. She just sneered twice, pretending to be unwell, and closed her eyes. Looking at the appearance of Song Wulang and her son in the wilderness at this moment, it is obvious that they are not ready to call a doctor for her. She has lost too much blood, has a high fever now, and cannot feel cold for a while. The situation is very critical, and Lily couldn't die here after failing to complete the task. She was going to use her internal energy to heal her injuries, but unexpectedly, the sense of energy that she had cultivated for more than half a year disappeared completely and she couldn't feel it at all. This shocked Lily. She struggled to reach out to touch her Danshan, but as soon as her body moved, she felt a sharp pain in her belly, and her face instantly turned pale. She was poisoned. Although Song Wulang had picked herbal medicine and applied it on her, the poison gas spread into her body. Without the antidote, the herbal medicine would be slow to take effect. It's just that Song Wulang, mother and son, didn't dare to go down the mountain to find the doctor, for fear of being discovered by Qin Gong's people, so they just bandaged Lily hastily. In fact, she had been unconscious for 2 days. This time she could surviving is really a good thing for her. Song Wulang saw her green face with dark hair and her lips were slightly purple. Thinking that she had almost lost her breath several times recently, and it was possible that Lily would not survive this time, he couldn't help but feel a little pity in his heart, and said softly, "You are seriously injured and have been poisoned. Please stop moving. Once it is safe, I will find a way to earn money and take you to see a doctor." When she heard that she had been poisoned, Lily almost spat out a mouthful of blood. She naturally thought of the arrows she had been hit by when Yang Xiaoxiu was carried on her back. In the plot, it was Yang Xiaoxiu who was supposed to be poisoned, but Liu Beihe was a fool. He took drugs for her to heal her injuries. Now Lily herself was poisoned, but no one cared about her at all. Lily was so excited that her throat sweetened, and blood spurted out. "I was poisoned. It was from your mouth just now, Miss Yang." Harmful. When Yang Xiaoxiu heard this, she felt a little guilty. "It's all my fault. I caused my sister to suffer. I should have used my energy to heal my sister's injuries, but my family's revenge has not been avenged and my wish has not been fulfilled. Otherwise, I would have exchanged my life for my sister's life." She just casually said that she would trade her life for her own. Who wouldn't say something nice? She was still trying to talk about some kind of family feud, but her wish was still unfulfilled, but the Li family and her son still looked in admiration. Lily finally couldn't hold it back, her vision went dark, and she passed out again. After she passed out, she no longer knew the time. She only vaguely knew that someone was picking her up and running. Her already heavy injuries worsened because of this run. Lily even finally felt that her mission might be ruined. When she died in Yang Xiaoxiu's hands, she heard Li's anxious breathing in her daze, put her down. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations, monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation.